We're live. Yes. And Robbie, grand rising, everyone. Grand rising, such a nice word. There's our KK. Hello, my friends. Big hugs and love to you. Yes, Skydra, Deanna. My grace flow through each breath and shine brightly as love's radiance fills life on our beautiful small blue world. That is gorgeous. I love that. I love the openings here. That is so wonderful. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, as I'm losing my voice again. We did do one quick video over on EE Arts talking about a missing general that happened to have been in charge of pretty much the highest part of the UFO program. You know, there's so much to cover. These are just amazing times. It's just wild what's going on, guys. Elantra, good to see you. Seawald, good to see you. You know, it's just, we knew this was coming and now it's here. So now it's just time to double check your preparations. Hopefully everybody is prepared. Hopefully everybody is organized and has understood that, you know, this is part of moving out of one age and moving into another. Robbie, 3-2 today, 3-2-2026. Yeah, that's interesting. And 3-2-1 countdown, yeah. And then tomorrow it feels like a lot of people have pegged tomorrow at 3-3 to be a very important day, and maybe some big things. Well, definitely there are big things brewing. Karma Doc's in the house as well. Back-ass weird world, sure is.
Indeed, and we'll have to get you a wrench, Karma Doc. A lot of people we didn't get over on Evolutionary, but we'll get there. We will get there. So it's good to see you, Sin Havoc. Yes, a roller coaster ride for sure. And yeah, Karma Doc, we be preppers. I mean, she is one of the best. Did you hear that the leader of Iran was killed on the 11th day of the Iran's 9th month? Huh. 9/11 for that, right? I mean, so much symbology. At what point do you say it's, you know, it's just a coincidence? I mean, how many coincidences does it take for it to no longer be a coincidence? I haven't seen too much that's not a coincidence.
Yeah, we have a Melinda Wilson sighting. Hope you're doing well and staying warm up there. Jaquez Crumb, beam me up, Scotty. Oh, yeah. You know, Stargate 10 has been activated. I love that. That is so cool. Carolina Dream. So good to see you as always. So, guys, yeah, lots going on. This should definitely stick out. And this is the Dimona nuclear reactor. Supposedly, it's been struck. Multiple sources are saying it's not only been struck, but potentially is leaking radioactive materials. This is definitely not a good situation. You know, it's just a sad state of affairs that you have Netanyahu supposedly is in Germany, safely away in Germany with some of the other top officials. While all this is happening, you know, again, you could say that the vast majority of this is his doing. You know, it's again, it's a tangled web that has been woven, and the average people end up paying, you know, for it. This is just a horrible situation. The world needs to wake up. And we need to, again, get ourselves cleansed of this dark system that profits off of war, death, and destruction.
I know, and yeah, the faces in those clouds are they're pretty prevalent, and there's several. But it's just, you know, this world is multidimensional with many beings in it who show their form in really eerie, kind of creepy ways.
Please do thumbs up to support the algorithm. Leave a comment if you could, and share, because again, we are definitely non-dogmatic, and we don't take a side, because when you take a side, you're part of the system. You're playing into again what the system makes profit off of on both sides, and that's death and destruction and a lot of loot.
A lot of loosh. That's the thing. It's everyone who is of love and peace definitely welcome, and division, we steer away from division. Anything that would be look like obvious division, we just don't go there, because our energy needs to be at the highest point possible. And because we're making a difference, we are changing the world as we come together with our energy fields. So it's really important, just right now, I know everyone has their own opinions of this or that, but during the lives, we make a point to make a difference, a positive change in the world energetically, because that's what everything starts from, is from the energy field.
Yes, absolutely. And intent has so much to do. And our intention is that this war, which has seemed inevitable, be very, very short, very, very brief, and results in the overthrow of the dark system that, again, feeds off of exactly these type of things. All those that have been in politics, that make money off of the military-industrial complex and other sides of it, they need to be exposed for what they are, because truly they are serving very, very dark forces. And I do see that. I do see that people are waking up everywhere. This is, again, another way of distracting us from the real realizations that the very worst type of people have been in the highest positions. Not just in the United States or in Israel, but around the world. This has just been what we've had. It's not the cream of the crop that rise to the top in a Kali Yuga. It's the exact opposite. And it's time to, again, call it for what it is, and to start to move peacefully beyond that. Meanwhile, they're intent on causing as much death and destruction as they can.
I know, and we have a JW sighting, and my little gremlins in my ear are telling me that JW needs a wrench, so we'll have to take care of that for you. So it's good to see you, JW. Karma Dog says all you have to do is look at stocks to see who's making those dollar signs. I agree. It's always about follow that money, right? Follow the money, and you'll see who is rising to the top for real with that black sludge.
Yeah, absolutely. And JW has a much bigger wrench than most in many ways, which we don't need to go into details with. But did you know that JFK demanded to inspect Israel's Dimona nuclear reactor in 1963? He even threatened to cut U.S. aid to Israel, and he was assassinated the same year. Just coincidences, right? Again, the nuclear reactor, which is now up in flames, apparently. And, of course, that country that many people believe it has led the whole world by the nose into this situation where we're literally witnessing the outbreak of WW3. This is Israel's president who replaced Netanyahu at a press conference. Some people think that Netanyahu may have been terminated. Others believe that he's safely away in Germany. His son is in Miami, by the way, and wouldn't be taking part in any sort of military operations himself. He's, again, safely away. This is what they do. This is exactly what they do.
The missile totally annihilated the synagogue and entered into the shelter because it was a direct hit of a half-ton missile. Children were murdered here. 9 innocent souls were lost. All night, the teams of the mayor were gathering the remains and the pieces.
No death is really ever anything that we want to see happen. And you have to recognize that what happened in Gaza, there was 2 million people living in the Gaza Strip. 2 million people. in the Gaza Strip. It was, you could look at it like there's 8 million people in New York. So, 1/4 the size of New York City's population were displaced, and many, many perished. There is something to the karma. Karma is really, it's the law of cause and effect. And this is why we believe in always putting out peace, always putting out love and compassion for others. We do not believe in, again, what the world seems to have gone along with, this nonstop death and destruction.
No, there's everyone deserves freedom. Everyone deserves peace. And, I just feel like us, everyone in the room, we all have a real good handle on that, and we can grasp that, and we don't, condone any kind of hatred or division. I mean, who's going to make that stand? It's like there's no one in charge that is going to make that stand to say, hey, I'm not going to be divisive. I'm not going to be full of hate. Because if you do, you're going to get pummeled. And that is so wrong. This world shouldn't be that way. And that's why I like to hold the intention of peace when we do these lives, because it matters. It makes a difference. It's just something that needs to be done. It has to start from somewhere.
Yeah.
It's Mike, they're messing with his throat chakra, which is appropriate. Mike's a very big protector, and his net is cast as far as it will possibly go to protect those who are in his realm, knowingly and unknowingly. It's really important. So it just makes sense they would start shutting down the throat chakra.
Yeah, and it's something we saw with multiple people. We've seen the Vatican translator that has been on with Paul Wallace so many times, Mauro Bellino. He has some real strange, weird, rare throat condition, and so does RFK Jr., by the way. It's just simply, it almost was my case too. Years ago, I was having a lot of throat issues. Was even diagnosed wrongly with a goiter, which is something that I don't have. We pointed this out in the first video today, and, this is definitely something to make note of. It looks to me like it really could be that we have an oil rig on fire, and, that would, of course, with everything that's going on, be something that I would expect to happen. We know there's sleeper cells in the country, and we do know that Russian and Chinese subs do make their way towards our coastlines. If we look to the prophecies that have been given to us by many people, and tons of people have seen these times in their visions, in dreams as well. What is going to happen? According to some, there will be an attack on the U.S. that's massive, and it's an attack, again, that is initiated off the coastlines using hypersonic missiles in the subs. They've telegraphed that hypersonic missiles, in fact, there's officials like Israel's president, again, that said there's nothing you can do to stop a hypersonic missile. So, what we see is the U.S. and Israel have been ostracized. It certainly does look like Ezekiel 38, which, what does Ezekiel 38 talk about? It talks about the vast majority of the world kind of coming up against Israel and looking like Israel's going to be utterly destroyed. And then there's an intervention again, of supernatural, but again, the supernatural, things we've taken for supernatural are not always supernatural. In fact, usually they're just simply other explanations that the mainstream doesn't understand. And, could be ET technology is what Israel's relying on, perhaps even some ET allies to save itself. When you look at these prophecies. But when we recognize that these beings that make themselves to be the creator of the universe are not the creator of the universe. In fact, in many cases, they're what I've called for years interdimensional, intergalactic pirates that literally profit from, again, death and destruction, war, and all the like, everything that we've seen in this world. So I would not be the slightest bit surprised if this was literally an oil rig that was targeted and hit in some way, shape, or form. Again, the U.S. has been hitting all sorts of quote-unquote drug-running boats. I mean, obviously, cartels would have the ability to do something like that. Would cartels potentially be working with BRICS nations? Yeah, I think that could be a very, very real possibility. So, this is something that's curious, to say the least.
Yeah, definitely curious. So many things. I just cannot believe how lightning fast things are going. And it seems like even when we get done with a live, we find something else major that's happened. And Mike has just been surfing everything, trying to keep up with everything and bring it all together so that we can understand it, because there's just scattered information everywhere.
Yeah, and it's going to only get more chaotic. This is why we're taking the time while we can, before I think, we get into times where we might not be able to talk to each other for days at a time, maybe even weeks, hopefully not months. When you realize how big these weapons are, this is a thermobaric bomb, can affect up to 100 meters in a minute, in just 1 minute's time. These are being used now. So what you have is weaponry that Iran didn't necessarily possess even a year ago, now has been funneled in massive quantities by China and Russia just for this reason. So I do think Israel will probably bear the worst portion of what's to come, most likely, because again, it's many nations now that are lining up against Israel. Carol, thank you. Welcome to memberships.
Aw, thank you, Carol. Good to see you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and again, we are for peace, and we recognize that the manipulation is done on all sides. So, as long as you pick a side, they're happy because it's going to help manifest their outcome, which again, they envision a world with like 1/16th, 1/20th the population that has been here, in which it's much easier for them to control every little aspect of our lives, in which we're not even really truly free or even have the illusion of freedom. This is what the system is trying to bring about. And again, the system fears us because, even though we've been so heavily indoctrinated in different belief systems, religious and geopolitical and scientific, and also constantly exposed to all these heavy metals, these toxins, these pesticides, these parasites, here we are, and we're still here, and we're still going to be here after this war is done. The polar psychic Christoph Tchaikovsky, he was picking up a lot. He was very upset in yesterday's reading. I'm going to bring up his channel because you can translate it from Polish to English. And, Christoph has been extremely accurate. He is, actually used by the police to find missing people and to help solve different types of crimes. He was recommended to us by our friend from Poland, who's also from the U.S., Peter. And, he's just amazing. He really is amazing. He's very, very accurate. So I like to go off of what Christoph gets with what Cindy and I get. And then when things come together, it's just, and thank you, Karma Doc. Welcome as well to memberships. When we get multiple people with intuitive abilities agreeing on the visions that they're getting, then it just feels much more likely that they're going to come to pass. So this was his from yesterday. Didn't have a ton in there. I think he's coming back today. But yeah, he did say we have entered that time. He did predict a full year earlier, that February, March of this year, 2026, back in December, I think it was, of 2024, he predicted that this would be the time that World War III would kick off. And also, that it's going to be popping up in many different places at the same time. It is going to be global in nature, so we need to do our best. I mean, we've been going through a lot of the stores that I had stocked up for years. We've just been using to cycle through bulk, because I bought like several hundred pounds of rice, several hundred pounds of beans and lentils, just in case stuff that we've been cycling through. But I would think it would be a good idea to pick up some long-term supplies, water purification. We have multiple water purification systems. I just bought another yesterday because, it's just good to be covered, have all your bases covered, and have a redundancy in your preparations.
Well, just in case, on the off chance that we can't stay here and we have to vacate for some ungodly reason that I can't think of, we did get a mobile RO machine, like a countertop RO machine, so that if we do need to leave and we need clean water, we have that. So to me, that felt very important, but having clean water is so important. We had another one. I like this one better. It does add in the UV. I like that extra little aspect of it. So the water, what can we do with that water? There's not a lot.
Karma Doc, thank you so much for that thought. Do you all have an account where we can contribute to supplies? We don't really, but we do appreciate your support again on Patreon memberships. Yeah, Ko-Fi, Ko-Fi is also, that's what we utilize when we do sessions, which goes to our PayPal. So Evolutionary Energy Arts at Gmail is the PayPal address as well. RO is great. We do also have the big double metallic drip type, like it's a pure well that we have. It's been very, very good. We do have zero water too. A redundancy to redundancy. We have life straws too. There's been stuff I've moved literally through 4 to 5 different states because we took a time to figure out where do we want to settle in, where do we like to be, and where's going to be okay to grow food. Because again, I do think we're going to have to grow. Karma Doc has a place with acreage, again, with greenhouses. We have friends that are preppers that are really prepared, prepared for like 10 years time. We have a lot of friends that are prepared for 10 years with no grid, literally. It's really amazing how many people have known what's coming this whole time. 3 U.S. F-15s downed over Kuwait as the Iran war spirals. Reports of paranoia and anxiety at the Pentagon. Yeah, literally, you have these videos, again, showing pilots coming down because, the F-15s have been knocked from the sky. So as of 11:03 p.m. Eastern Time on March 1st, 3 U.S. F-15E Strike Eagles flying in support of Operation Epic Fury went down over Kuwait due to an apparent friendly fire incident. What's friendly fire? It's when you actually were shot by your own people or your allies. Now, that may be the case, and it may not be the case, because, again, they don't want to say, they don't want to admit if Iran's actually taking out our F-15s. That doesn't really show well. So, they're not going to admit that. And this is what we have. We have confirmed at least 4 or 5 U.S. personnel deaths, but then we also have reports that are saying the deaths are in the hundreds. And what's the truth? The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. That's quite a sight. Now, again, I think people need to prepare themselves, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. Again, we've shared with you what we do. We literally do 2 hours plus of self-care a day. I would say, again, a big portion of it is in meditation, Qigong, which is a practice like Tai Chi, as well as yoga. We are definitely grounding and rooting ourselves. We get out into nature. We usually walk or hike a couple miles a day, and we also get cardio on the elliptical or on the exercise bike, and as well as resistance training. I've even had Cindy training, pad training. We have heavy bags. We have all the sorts. We are preppers, but I view us as spiritual preppers too. We do not lose sight of the fact that we are, a holistic being here, having a human experience in a crazy time.
I know. I wish we had a way to do all the things like Karma Doc has a niece that raises organic beef, and Karma Doc has chickens and ducks and turkeys and geese and pigs, and gonna try her hand at buckwheat. She's like such an amazing soul, and I don't know where she finds the time, but she does, and she has the energy, and I'm really glad someone like her is doing these things. We need people to do these things, and we need to support them as well if they have businesses, and if they're selling anything. Definitely. Because I trust anything that she raises, anything that she does completely, 100%. That aspect of it is not in the cards right now. Maybe it will be later in life. I don't know, but not everyone can do it. But those that do, we should support them as to the best of our ability. If you don't have access to clean food and they raise it, well, you get it from there. We need to definitely support our farmers.
Iran has declared an imposed war, which means, again, they were forced into this conflict, but they've also declared total war. And Tehran, as you can see the photos here, has been hit very, very hard. So there's been multiple strikes, and, there's been at least 15 nations that have had some sort of blast on their soil. European gas prices explode over 50% after Qatar halts the liquid natural gas output. I was debating in my mind now, do we get more gas containers and, fill them? These are things to take into consideration. We might not have been impacted yet at home, but we will. There's no doubt you're going to be impacted. And seriously, prices on energy is going to go through the roof. It's been going through the roof already. Prices on food, you're going to have shortages. You're going to, everything that you can have for yourself now in place, hopefully is already in place for all the basic necessities. But certainly, water filtration, this is expanding. So, to think that it's not going to come to roost wherever we are might be a little naive, unless you're on some tiny little island somewhere.
I do not like to get the rice and the beans and things in the bags, because I hear all too often that mice can get in those. So what I've done with the rice and stuff that I do have in bags, I bought containers. I bought big buckets, and I put those in the buckets, the sealed buckets, so that the mice, and if any do get in, they're not going to get into that food. But moving forward, I always try to be very conscious about the containers. So the hard plastic containers might cost a little more, but they're going to help in the long run, and they're not completely impossible for mice and rats to get into, but it's going to take them a minute. They're not going to destroy your whole supply. You'll probably see the evidence and be able to do something about it. So to me, container packaging a little extra is worth it, so that you're not replacing the bags, because the bags, that would be twice as expensive if you had to replace that.
Yeah, reverse osmosis is RO. And so reverse osmosis is probably the best. You can distill and also add back in minerals, because you'll need that mineralization. We've already had a reverse osmosis machine, and we have a distiller. But again, it's a redundancy. Now this over here is in Saudi Arabia. Iran struck Saudi Arabia's Aramco Ras Tanura oil refinery. So it's a mess. They are each targeting the energy production, which is also what's been done in other ways consistently, for really like the last 6 years or more. Going back to 2017 when we started to do videos. And talking about all these energy producing centers and food producing centers that have had hits to them. Now you have World War III going on, which is it's a shooting gallery now to knock offline as many energy production zones as possible, and that is what you're seeing manifest. So yeah, we are going to be into looking to alternatives. You're going to need alternatives to your alternatives. So, hopefully everybody, again, has been doing what prepping they can.
You do what you can, and don't stress if you're not in a position to get all the things. And your spiritual practice then becomes really important, because that is what is going to draw the resources to you or make the path so that you can get the things. I mean, it's not going to make things less difficult, but it is going to make it so that you are more magnetic, so that your manifesting abilities are stronger and you have more pathways to get the things that you really need. And that's why we put spirituality at the top. That's the top. Our practice comes first every day, and then our exercise practice, and then work, and then doing the things like the planting and prepping where we can. But it's we do stay quite busy doing this work, gathering all the information and getting it out there. So we don't have the perfect prepper setup, but we do have things, we have redundancy where we can.
So this was a refinery with a capacity of 550,000 barrels a day. And so this was huge, a huge loss in Saudi Arabia, because this is now offline. We probably have no concept of where the prices of gas and oil are going to go. They're going to go through the roof. So a lot of people will become kind of immobile. I think that is part of the bigger picture. Iran rules out talks with the U.S. as the Middle East turmoil escalates. U.S.-Israeli missile attack on a diplomatic compound killed the supreme leader, and apparently the second supreme leader, the guy that was pegged to take over, it only lasted a day. These are just insane times right now. So state-owned Qatar Energy, which is the 5th largest gas company in the world, has announced it will halt production of liquid natural gas due to the ongoing fighting. In particular, it cited attacks on the Ras Laffan industrial city and also the Mesaid industrial city facilities in Qatar. Death toll of American personnel has reached 4, as another one succumbed to wounds. This is a long war, the likelihood of a long war. The Polish psychic sees about 2 years, a little bit over 2 years, that this is going to last on the timeline that he's able to see. Again, timelines can change. So again, think long haul. This is going to be a marathon, most likely. And the thing that gets lost is, in case you missed it, Afghanistan and Pakistan are in open war. These two countries are fighting openly. This was from yesterday, so the numbers might be significantly more higher. Afghan losses around 1,000 in the latest escalation with Pakistan. Afghan forces have suffered nearly 1,000 casualties in the latest cross-border escalation with Pakistan. At least 415 Taliban fighters and allied militants have been killed, more than 580 wounded in airstrikes and clashes since Thursday. 182 Afghan checkpoints have been destroyed, along with 185 tanks, armored vehicles, artillery pieces. Kabul did not comment on the figures cited by Tarar, Afghanistan spokesman. claimed on Saturday that 3 days of border clashes had left 78 dead, including 12 Pakistani soldiers and 1 civilian, and 13 Afghan soldiers, plus 52 Afghan civilians, mostly women and children. Again, these numbers, they never match in war. When you have these sides fighting, they don't match because, again, they're always trying to lie and distort their successes and hide their failures, so to speak.
Yeah, looky there. And lately I see the Vedic chart comments in the comments, and I've been working with the Varshafala chart lately, and what that does is it looks at your solar year from year to year, and you can look at any year that you want to, but usually people want to see the upcoming year to see what they need to prepare for. And yes, Karma Doc, we need to get you in for that for sure. But there was darn it, there was some other comments back here, and I can't get to them. Where did they go? Oh, yeah. Someone says, Lo, when you said pad training, I laughed out loud. That is what some people call puppy potty training. I know it's the boxing, like the kickboxing. That is cute. I'm glad you see things funny like that. I love it. So there was another thing, but I can't find it here. No, I mean, today is such a big day. It's such an important day to get prepared. And back to the Varshafala chart, I did the United States from this year all the way to 2030 because I could see a pattern forming, and I just wanted to see what the planets had to say about that. And as I did it, what showed up is like a complete melting down of a system that is not efficient and the rebuilding of a system that is efficient. But that led me to the AI, and the AI being, its job is efficiency. It's supposed to make everything efficient, but it has no desire at all for human survival. So humans can be very messy creatures, but we do what we do for the survival of all. And that's not AI's thing. It's for efficiency. That's not going to be for the long-term survival of us. I mean, we are very imperfect, but in our imperfectness, we seem to stumble on these really amazing things in life that are better than you could ever imagine.
Wow, guys. So, yeah, there's some big stuff coming out. We're going to jump over. Russians threaten horror strikes on Europe in revenge for Iran. Trump untied our hands was the actual statement that Putin had given. He had also expressed condolences over the death of the Iranian supreme leader. And, Alois Ermeiler, he saw Russia steamrolling through Ukraine and not stopping there, going into Poland, the Baltic nations, even going into Germany before being halted somewhere around the Germany-French border by basically what looks to be some sort of mustard gas. This, again, was Alois Ermeiler. I believe it was 1959 when he gave that prophecy, and I don't think he lived too much past that. Now, again, timelines can change. We look to the vision of George Washington, which was verified in from other sources, not that it came directly from George Washington, but that it was known at the time of the Civil War, which talked about 3 great challenges for the United States: the Revolution, number 1, Civil War, number 2, and then an invasion, and literally a large portion of the world attacking the U.S., which we could understand now how that could happen with everything that's going on. When you look to BRICS, like Cindy said, well, who's BRICS exactly again? Well, it's Brazil, right? Russia, India, China, and South Africa, but there's also like 10, 12 other nations besides that. It's been growing. They also, by the way, have introduced a gold-backed currency, which, this is also ultimately about the fact that the U.S. is in economic decline and China is, has ascended. to the point where the system wants to switch basically who's going to be the policeman of the world. That's really all that's kind of happening, and introduce even more technological big brother control over us all, no matter what country we're in. So recognizing that as part of the bigger picture, will Russia go? Will Russia increase their attacks? The Polar Psychic sees that it's the case that they've been purposely holding back on Ukraine because they anticipated a much bigger conflict. And when that bigger conflict is here, which apparently it is, then they will do much larger attacks and probably won't stop at Ukraine, because they'll also be backed by North Korea and China and other nations. China and India, when you look at those two nations combined, have almost half the world's population just with those two countries. So, here again, you have a situation where we have been kind of ostracized. And yeah, it really has been intentional from our own leaders in the U.S. and in Israel. Was there any alternative to striking Iran? If you're just worried about them getting nuclear weapons, they could get them from China and Russia. That's kind of silly. But yeah, it's a bigger thing. It's really, who is still going to maintain the top dog position, as far as financially and militarily, which the two do go hand in hand. USS Abraham Lincoln was targeted with ballistic missiles. It left the area from what I had last seen. U.S. has said Iranian claims that they struck the USS Abraham Lincoln are a lie, but that they were targeted, and they left the area. They moved beyond. They're moving beyond the range of the missiles that they have. Guys, here you go. Let's see if we come up with what I just read on my iPad. And let me pull it up while I hand you over.
So JW says, what are some wins that Mike and Cindy have had recently? And I gotta say, I woke up today, I took a big deep breath, and I don't see too much spraying in the air. And my big beautiful puppies, they all gave me lots of love. But besides that, I mean, for real, Karma Doc introduced me to these patches. They're light patches, and I tried them out, and my body made some huge leaps and bounds when it comes to growth, things that even through diet and exercise and all the things I was not able to do myself. So we do have those. They take some patience. It's patience and plenty of water, because they help your body heal itself. So those are some wins, but my favorites are just, waking up, looking at my husband and my puppies.
Thank you, JW. Yes, we do appreciate every day that's peaceful and beautiful. And we do enjoy just simple things like, making sure the birds have food and that they're enjoying themselves. Same thing with the deer. So you have this coming out. This is a Democrat, Ted Lieu, a representative from California, that says the full e-files show allegations of 47 doing the unthinkable. Yeah, did you? Don't read it out loud, but you could see what's coming out right now.
Oh, yeah.
Again, I do think that there's no way 47 is going to be able to stay in his position. I think he's understood this is he's on a crash and burn mission, but he really is. It's a suicide mission. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's suicide for countless people. As again, the system, are they here to protect us? Well, I think there's people like JW that take that seriously. But unfortunately, when you get to the very top, it's a corrupted system, and it's been corrupted on both sides.
It has, and he has had a role to play, and he is playing it. And when he made that comment a little while back about you won't have to vote anymore. I think people were really confused whether he said you'll never have to vote again, or did he or didn't he? And I think this is part of the way how the system is going to make it so that, they're just, everything is going to change. This is going to melt the current system, and there's going to be something else in place.
Yeah, as Sin Havoc says, the blackmail package, which was basically gotten on everybody, because you can't get to the top without, being put in that type of position. It's what the system does. And the system ultimately, why do we have all this going on at the same time as disclosure? Because they're tied together, because the ultimate deep state is not Homo sapiens sapiens. That's the thing to get through. When you look to your myths and legends of the ancient times when the gods walked amongst us, that was not just myth and allegory. They're literally talking about advanced beings with technology, well beyond ours. They were here. Every single culture talks of that time period. With the Greek myths where they view humans as just playthings. And, yet the Greek myths will tell you that these beings had children, offspring with humans. And the Bible says the same thing. Again, the interaction between different species that could apparently have offspring. Well, it's also because ultimately the human species is not just isolated on the planet Earth. No, it's all over the place, various humanoid species. Again, bodies are vehicles that the soul, the spirit, the real self, the consciousness inhabits in order to have an experience on this reality. So, what you have is, these statements coming out right now tells you, we are beyond the start. It's really, we're full in now. So it's really important for everybody to recognize where we are. I don't think this is going to cool off or calm down. So again, we protect ourselves as best as we can. We have food, we have water, we have ways of purifying, that water. We work with family members, friends, neighbors. Do your preparations, because, this is going to be kind of like it's going to be a marathon. And, on the other side of these times, I do think there's going to be technologies introduced that'll be mind-blowing. And I do think the opportunity is there to have a much more a friendly earth paradigm, with the leadership that has been all about death and destruction. And we've all heard about the things that these leaders have been doing, and it's not just isolated to the U.S.
And I love that. Karma Duck says, clear skies today over SHTF Farms. I love that name. That is most appropriate. That's fabulous. I'm so glad you have that name. Is that really your name? I love it. That's fabulous.
Yeah, it's just been one big revelation. I really do feel for those that have been totally in the dark of all this. It hit me in the 90s, early 90s, just how corrupt the system is, and the realization of the darkness that's everywhere in very high places. And, it was hard to process, when you were brought up. Again, my parents were very patriotic. Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. They were extremely patriotic. And they were pretty devout Catholics, and realizing again that, maybe no entity has committed as much atrocity really in some ways as the Catholic Church. When you look back through history, all these revelations are very, very shaking of the foundation for so many people. Again, there are some that have been putting out everything, the good, bad, and the ugly. It appears Thomas Massey and the Congresswoman from South Carolina, Nancy Mace, have done a great job. And you got MTG, who's not part of Congress anymore, just still doing a lot of disclosure, about how bad the government and everything has really, really been. So you can see what the history books will say, and they will make it like we have been living in our version of Nazi Germany the whole time without even knowing it. What did the average person think that was living in Nazi Germany in the 1930s? There was a lot of patriotic people there then. This is General Flynn saying, shut the entire Federal Reserve down, no longer allow it to fix our financial system. It's neither federal nor is it a reserve. It's obviously filled with elite globalists who just believe they could adjust the U.S. financial system based on their own whims. They are divesting themselves of it right now. They've already done that. So, yeah, the Federal Reserve, 1913, it's always been a trap. I put a video up about that in 2017, and they only allowed it to get 86 views. And that was how the Fed really operates, because it's just the same old big banking families. It's the same people again. They've already cut themselves off from us, the United States, financially. They are, even part of the ones that have been lighting the fuse in this whole fiasco. So they're already, well covered and invested in other areas that they know are safe. Yet at the same time, they're not going to be able to escape the light, because we are on the ascending path, and you're not going to be able to keep hiding things from the public that they've been hiding for so long.
No, it's coming out, and that's part of being in the Bronze Age, where, maybe the inclination is to think, well, things are going to get better, and in a way they are, but we have to, there's no shortcuts. There's absolutely no shortcuts. You have to pull the stuff out from all the corners to look at it and decide if you need to throw that away, or is there a place for it. So we're in that process of, clearing out the nastiest closet in the house that has so much crap stuffed in it just because somebody didn't want to deal with it, or they wanted to hide it but still keep it. I mean, that's where we're at, and just the very, very, very brink of this Bronze Age. We are just stepping into it. So we have some things to go through, and I think our intention and what we do in these lives are so very important to create that positive intention for the world that we truly want to live in.
Absolutely. Do you like how they put this article is more than 15 years old? Well, yeah, I mean, this company, in my opinion, should have been shut down 15 plus years ago. And, it still wasn't. It still isn't to this day. And they can dissolve the company and they could create another. We have to get rid of the concepts of corporations, because it literally is what I would call an AI reptilian Anunnakian thing. This is Spain. Hundreds of thousands of ancient olive trees being ripped out, replaced with solar panels. And we've lost more bees in the last year than we ever lost before. And now, again, solar panels, and what are they doing? They're going to soak up so much groundwater. They're going to cause so much more desertification with their data centers.
Yeah.
Why? We obviously are in a population decline. Why do you need these massive data centers? Because ultimately, if you really want to know who Satan is AI, and it has minions serving it.
It's really not good what we have going on, because those solar panels, they do damage, to the earth, to the ground, and it's not conducive. I mean, there's free energy in a way that can be very, very clean, that doesn't need all the pollution and all the yuck. So it does show we're still in a world that has controllers that want to harm the earth. And until we're with controllers that want to be good to the earth, I think we're going to be in trouble.
Sin Havoc's asking about what's your reaction to Chris Bledsoe and Egypt in April, talking about ancient history and saying that history will be written. There's several prophecies that speak of, again, Edgar Casey made mention of what's underneath the Sphinx, and we know, that there's huge cavernous, there's machinery under the Sphinx. and the Giza Plateau, because again, we're surrounded by ultra-terrestrial technology. We're surrounded by it. Again, when John Levy is talking about the melted cities, the reality is, and I don't hear other people saying it this plainly, but when you look to Star Wars, look to the Death Star, right? Look to the moon. What do you think the moon is? The moon it's an artificial mothership that's been pulled into place. Yes, it was natural, but it's been hollowed out, and it is basically a mothership. It's a head of operations resource where the watchers watch Earth. And again, these beings, they're not fallen angels unless you're using the word angel to mean messenger. That is the original interpretation of the Greek words that were used in the New Testament, talking about these beings. They're literally called messengers. They're messengers. That's what that is saying. Fallen, well, yeah, coming to Earth again from the sky. And we could also look at a fall dimensionally, because humans originally, we're coming from fifth density on down to the heavy 3D existence. So there's many different allegories we can utilize to talk about the fall. Perhaps even the act of eating an apple. Maybe it's not that it was the apple. Maybe it's not that it's representing information. Maybe it's also even just the whole concept of eating. When people look at Tartarian buildings and say there's no bathrooms, why? Well, how about the whole concept of drawing prana, the life force, in? Because you can. And there are people that have subsisted for very long periods of time just off the life force. Most of us aren't there yet. And certainly if you're still eating fast food, you're probably not going to be near it for a long time. Because you have to, again, detoxify your temple as you see some sort of object up there over the holographic overlay of the moon. Because it is a holographic overlay. It doesn't really look like what they make it out to look like. It's another one of the illusions that's going on. How about this? This is the most detailed model of a human cell to date, using X-ray, NMR, and cryo-electron microscopic data sets. Wow, look at that. What do you see? To me, I see like we're looking down on a city. As above, so below, as within, so without. This entire realm is just beyond comprehension almost, with its scope and space. And each one of us, it's written, ye are gods, yeah. And each one of us is a universe unto ourselves. And so there's so many different consciousness entities out there that are experiencing this reality from so many different perspectives.
Yeah, as above, so below. And every day when you really grasp that, you can see it and compare it. And always, it's something that to me is very reassuring, that everything just is. Everything is just one continuous body. And when you add in things that don't belong, well, that is causing a disruption in the life force that flows through all of us. So, I mean, the sooner we can get back to a world where temples are made of stone and everything is made of earth, that's when our bodies are going to be able to heal. Looking at these Tartarian buildings and all the sound resonance that flows through them, it's making our bodies able to use every bit of anything that we take into them. It's really harmonizing our bodies to such a high degree that there is very little waste. Very, very, very little waste. And right now we're given food that is so yucky. I saw somewhere, if you look at McDonald's alone, in the world, and maybe they just said the United States, I'm not sure, but that it would take up to 97,000 cows to make all of those hamburgers. How? That's not possible. That's not feasible. So where is this supposed meat coming from? And dare I shudder to think what they've been really pushing lately is disgusting. And I've heard that, with the amount of human bodies that are being, that are dying. Like, where are they putting them all? Where are they putting them all? So it's just some really gross, disturbing stuff that we're realizing in this world. And that's why it's so good. Just don't eat the fast food. Just don't. It's not feasible that they can butcher that many cows.
Oh, Frankie. Well, Frankie says for some reason not able to give us a super chat because
It's on Evolutionary.
we're on Evolutionary. We are monetized, but they still restrict us because we knew 6 months before the plague upon the land happened certain things. And so they tried like hell to shut us down. But yeah, we're still here. And yet, we do appreciate it. Again, the best place really to support us is truly on Ko-Fi because YouTube does take at least 40%, sometimes more. But Ko-Fi, you could do coffees as well. And we will be back later on tonight on EE Arts, which is our other channel that we go live on. So yeah, I did want to share too. This was a big statement that KK said. So if we are mistreating our body, then the whole world has evil. I like the way of looking at it. Yes, that's brilliant. Think about that. If you're doing bad to your body, you're literally creating evil in the world, the universe of your body. This is why when you take care of your body, you're literally supporting all the life forms that are in your body in a positive way. It's like their environment is having beautiful blue skies and perfect days, perfect weather, no earthquakes, no tornadoes, no violence. This is where peace starts within. Peace starts within each one of us. So again, it's so obvious, if again, it's a typical thing that the system does is fear-based. You better believe what we say or otherwise you're going to be punished forever. That's just the system. That's not the reality of the world. The real creator is not like that. And you don't have to go anywhere to find the real God because that is lying within you. It's in every single one of us.
Mm-hmm. It's, it's something that they put inside of your mind during such a young age where the hardwiring is very, very relevant. So they are very quick to take us out of the home and educate us the way that they need us to be educated. And because that's to their benefit, to them, they gain more control if they have people scared to death of doing something that they think they shouldn't do. And instead of exploring their gifts and their talents and their understanding of the world and, learning how to manifest and to speak, to speak things into the ether that are going to be positive, they don't want us to know that that is all okay. Very important for them to get children as early as possible. And that's why I love these moms that are homeschooling that are so awesome and they're so amazing and they have such strength. And my heart goes out to them because it's not easy to do. It takes up a lot of your time, but it's an act of love. And I think that could possibly be maybe one of the few ways that we're going to get out of this is to keep our children as close as possible. And if your children are on cameras and tablets and playing Roblox, just really keep an eye on that. And I even told my own daughter, I said, if those kids are on tablets or phones, just make sure you cover that camera, cover the camera, or just don't have them on it. Do something different. I've heard CIA people don't allow their children to have phones and tablets for a long time. So
Cindy's going to give us some dings, and I wanted to tell you guys again, check out evolutionaryenergyarts.com. You could read some of the testimonials because we have to get to work with our appointments, which again, we work on people all around the world with energy work. We do Vedic astrology charts. We could help you with forecasting what's going on your own Varshafala chart, which basically gives you a huge clue as to the major things that you'll face as an individual for the year. And we've helped people all over the world doing energy work for over a decade. on people again, just about every continent besides Antarctica. And this is just a tiny little portion of the reviews because we got hacked and they wiped out our reviews. Yeah, but we do have a lot of people that do care and love and, sent us again back in reviews. It's just what the system does, guys.
Isn't this cute? Isn't this cute? This little kitty with the snuggly flower. That is so adorable. Okay. All right, here we go for some dings. And let's just put positive energy out into the universe that the world is changed and shifted and adjusted to support human life. Efficiency is good, but it doesn't support human life. And that's what we need. Here we go. Each and every one of you, let that light shine. You guys are amazing.
So anticipate going back after we're done with our regular job and coming back on live probably tonight around 5 or 6 Central Time. We'll notify you guys on EE Arts, the other channel. There are links to all 3 channels on every video. Loka samasta sukhi no bhavantu. That's a Sanskrit term. It means may all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may my words, thoughts, acts, and deeds contribute to that freedom and that happiness. Much love and appreciation, guys. Namaste.
Namaste.